Ladies and gentlemen, the Federal Reserve and the BLS have just got caught red-handed faking huge reports and also faking and manipulating key economic data. Because we all know they cook the books, they manipulate the data a little bit. We all know that real inflation's much higher than what they're saying, but even the fake and manipulative data they've got right now is wrong as well. We just got huge new news and huge new information that shows the data they've been putting out, even to their standards, is terribly wrong. And what this means is the data that's now coming out is much worse than originally thought. And unfortunately, I don't see any of the mainstream media covering this, and I don't see any of the market analysts covering this at all. This is all being kept under the rug, hush hush. They do not want you to know about this. But everyone, I'm about to expose what's really going on. We also got some major stories to cover today, so let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into the news, the facts, and hopefully the non-manipulated data. Well, everyone, look at this. Huge CPI revisions. Prices rose much faster than originally thought. Not for 1 month, for months. So if, like me, you thought prices were rising much faster than the BLS or the CPI reports were, that's because they are. And remember the Federal Reserve coming out and saying we're now in the disinflationary process? Remember the CPI or the CPI report came out in December and said prices actually fell 0.1%? Well, that's all been revised now, and that was another big, huge lie, even according to their fake standards. So listen to this, everyone, and this is not being reported anywhere. They're absolutely covering this up. On February 10th, the BLS quietly revised CPI higher for 4 of the past 5 months with 1 month unchanged. People, this is absolutely insane. I think the US economic data credibility is falling to the levels of China. And this absolutely grinds my gears, really annoys me, really gets me mad, because what do I do on this channel? I try to give you the news, the facts, and the data. I try to take this economic data and make predictions on what I think is going to happen in the markets and what I think is going to happen in the economy. But how can I make accurate predictions if even the data that we all know is a little bit manipulated is manipulated to the extreme? And so when I come out here and I tell you guys, look, boots on the ground information is telling me inflation is going to be here for longer, it's going to be worse, the Federal Reserve is going to have to lift interest rates much higher, that's me using real world observations. But unfortunately what's happening is the Federal Reserve, the BLS, they're coming in there and they're manipulating the data to the extreme. And then so the markets get these reports, and the markets, they're big millionaire hedge fund managers, they don't know what's going on in the real world. They just take this economic data and they think, oh great, inflation's falling. And so they buy the markets, and it makes me look very silly because I'm going, what? Inflation's not going down, it's getting worse. Because it seems like the market's becoming more and more disconnected from reality. We all know in real terms the economy's getting bad. I'll get into a moment how the jobs report was faked as well, because it seems like the markets just want to live in this dystopian fairy tale where the government can put out any data point they want. They can say, you know what, we're in a recession, but let's just change the definition of a recession and let's just say GDP grew at 1%. And the markets go, wow, the report says 1%, everything must be fine, let's buy. And this is why the standard of living for the middle class and for the average American is just getting worse and worse, because they're manipulating the data to keep the markets propped up and they're sacrificing the middle class to do it. Let's have a look month by month to show you how they rigged the data. So look at this, December, as reported, they said it was 0.1%. No, actually prices increased 0.1%. Also November, as reported, plus 0.1%, it was actually 0.2%. October, as reported, 0.4%, it was actually 0.5%. September was the same, and August was 0.1%, as revised 0.2%. And you know what was funny? When we got that December CPI report, the Federal Reserve Jerome Powell came out and said, look, we're actually having disinflation now. We're actually having deflation. Prices are going down. Where everyone's like, what are you smoking, Jerome? I'm going to the grocery store, things are more expensive. My gas bill is skyrocketing, my utility bills are skyrocketing, property taxes are skyrocketing. We all know debt's much more expensive, but that's not included in the CPI. So they are absolutely cooking the books here, people. Because I think I figured out their new strategy here, everyone, to manipulate the markets and also the government to manipulate the people to think that they're doing such a great job in office. They'll just put out the data, they'll say it's much better than expected, and then 6 months later, they'll revise the data to show it's actually much worse than what they said. But then it'll be 6 months later, the mainstream media won't report on it, nobody will bat an eye. all the money managers, all the market analysts will remain silent, and they'll all pretend that the Ponzi can keep on increasing. While, oh boy, have our leaders' morals fallen and their integrity has fallen to a whole new low. And again, like we've been talking about, food prices are skyrocketing, and this new revisions have showed they were trying to suppress food price inflation as well. So look at this. This is even worse, everyone. December, as reported, prices went up 0.3%, while they've revised that to now 0.5%. As of November, they said it was only 0.5%, now revised to 0.6%. And October, as reported, 0.6%. They've now revised that to 0.7%. Now, did you spot something there, everyone? The biggest manipulation they started doing was as of December. Now, why are they doing that? Well, that's because they're approaching a key critical interest rate level of 5%. I've been calling saying the Federal Reserve is going to have to go to minimum 5% to bring this inflation down. And if we do hit 5%, we're going to see a huge economic collapse. We're going to see mass defaults, mass bankruptcies, companies' earnings are going to fall, companies aren't going to be able to raise credit like they used to, startups aren't going to be able to raise credit, and we're going to see a Great Depression. Well, just as they're approaching that key critical 5% interest rate level, and now it looks like they're going to have to go even higher than that, say 6%, because again, they always have to take the interest rate above the inflation rate. So either inflation falls down to 5%, or they have to lift interest rates to 6% to bring it back down. So the Federal Reserve know this is going to happen. They also know that the US government would default on their debt if they have to lift interest rates to 6%. So now they're desperately trying to manipulate the data and hoping no one bats an eye. Now, not only were they manipulating the CPI data, also they're manipulating the jobs data as well. We got this huge surprise. Jobs gained in January of 500,000. We all know that there's huge mass layoffs happening right now, and there's no way there's that many jobs being created. So they've got caught manipulating this data as well, and they go on to say they expect there's going to be much more revisions for the employment data as well. And not only that, they're also expecting there's going to be some changes to the Q4 GDP data in 2022 to actually show there was an official recession. Now, also speaking on the government manipulating data, they're also manipulating the markets as well, specifically the oil markets, and Biden just made another huge announcement today that's going to put us all at great risk. Look at this, everyone. Biden suddenly orders release of another 26 million barrels from the strategic oil reserve. And I think we all know why they're doing this, everyone, because Russia announced they're going to be cutting oil production by 500,000 barrels a day to try to keep oil prices up. Well, Biden, he's trying to keep everyone happy. The main reason why people weren't as upset in the midterms because a huge voting issue was inflation and also gas prices. So he's trying to keep gas prices artificially low, suppress them to keep voters happy. While unfortunately you can't just print barrels of oil like you can print US dollars. Eventually their strategic petroleum reserves will be drained to such a low level they're going to have to fill them up again, and that's going to send oil prices surging along with maybe another cut from OPEC, and we're going to see inflation surge higher again. Listen to this. The Energy Department has laughingly sought to stop some of the sales required by the 2015 legislation so they can refill the emergency reserve, which currently has about 371 million barrels. After the latest release, the reserve will dip to about 345 million barrels, the lowest since 1983, following a drain of over 200 million barrels ever since the start of 2022. Now, I'll bring up a chart here, everyone. We can see here they're we can see they're draining the strategic petroleum reserves to a very, very dangerous level. And this is why inflation is being suppressed right now. If they weren't doing this, we would have double-digit inflation right now, and there would be absolutely no way, no matter how much they manipulate the data, that the government could hide it. But everyone, this is going to come at a price. What are we seeing right now? Tensions around the world are getting worse. Governments are getting much, much more aggressive. The East is getting much more aggressive to the West. We're seeing the conflict between the US and China, kind of Cold War, economic war, is getting worse. So you think it's a good idea to have such low reserves of oil right when we could be about to enter into some kind of global conflict, because soon we could also be under attack from UFOs. Look at this. US shoots down fourth high altitude object as lawmakers demand more information. Now, this has led to a bunch of people thinking maybe this is UFOs, maybe we're going to have an alien invasion. I'm not saying that at all, everyone. They're just an unidentified flying object. It doesn't mean it's an alien spaceship. But I am open to the fact and open-minded that, of course, there is probably some life out there, but I don't think this is an alien invasion like some people are hinting to. But what's much more likely, this is more Chinese spyware, more Chinese surveillance technology to surveil the West and the US. And with these being shot down right now, with them invading US airspace, them saying that the US is invading their airspace, well, we're going to see the conflict escalate, and we could have some kind of black swan event come out of this that the markets aren't prepared for. The US military shot down a fourth unidentified object Sunday over Lake Huron and expects to recover it. The White House on Friday announced a second object had been shot down over Alaska, and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Saturday a US fighter jet shot down a third unidentified object. Officials have yet to release details about the object that were down Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we can see things are getting much, much worse here. We had the Chinese spy balloon shot down, and every single day it seems like they're shooting down some other object out of US airspace. And right now there's a lot more questions than answers. But again, going back to the markets and with this manipulated data, even with this manipulated data, what are the markets pricing in, and what do the markets think interest rates will go to? Well, they're going to go much higher than expected and stay there for much longer. Look at this. So the market now sees a terminal rate of 5.36% in September, call it 5.2 to 5.5%. A month ago, the market thought the terminal rate was 5% in June. So that's right, this is why you can't trust the market's predictions. They thought it was 5%. We got more data to say that so-called the economy is much stronger. We're going to get data tomorrow to see if inflation is going to be higher. So we can't trust the markets every time they price in these hikes of 5%, 5.5%, because remember, start of the year in 2022, they thought maybe the Fed would only lift interest rates to 1 or 2%, and they were dead wrong. The market expected a peak in June, followed by 2 to 3 25 basis point cuts all the way to 4.3%. The market now sees a cut from 5.36% to 5%. Well, I think the market's going to be wrong again because they're going off this fake data. Me looking out in the real world, prices are still going up much faster, and we're going to see inflation become sticky for longer. And what we also need to do is hold the Federal Reserve accountable. You need to speak to your local politicians and tell them why they're manipulating this data. Because my good friend Steve Van Meter, the bond king, he actually got a letter from the White House after he did a video exposing the fake BLS job report. So he's making some friends in some high places for all the wrong reasons. Now, also something a bit concerning for the cryptocurrency industry right now, since we had the collapse of FTX, you're starting to see the Securities and Exchange Commission going to absolute blitz. They're going after cryptocurrency company after cryptocurrency company, and they're exposing these Ponzi schemes, and they're going after stablecoins, because we all know the US government won't let anyone compete with their worthless US dollar. Look at this. After they went after Kraken, crypto firm Paxos to face SEC charges in order to stop minting Binance stablecoin. Now, remember last week I did a video on Binance, how they were halting USD withdrawals. I said, look, I think Binance could be in trouble right here. I said, look, maybe there's going to be some probes by the SEC. And a lot of people said, oh, you're just putting out FUD, doom and gloom, nothing's wrong here. And it still surprised me how much trust investors have in these cryptocurrency firms. So the Ethereum-built BUSD tokens are backed by some 16 billion worth of treasuries and treasury reserves repurchase agreements. The regulator said it issued the order Monday as a result of several unresolved issues related to Paxos oversight of its relationship with Binance. So everyone, I think another big risk for the cryptocurrency industry is the SEC coming after these stable coins, and we don't know what kind of contagion this would have on the crypto industry. We all know if Tether went down, we'd see a full-on collapse. So that's just something to be mindful of. I'm not saying cryptocurrency is going to be dead, that Bitcoin's going to die. I'm just saying these are some negative headwinds we could be facing that you have to prepare for. So everyone, I know you're thinking, well, okay, what does all this mean for you in simple terms? Well, what this means is, everyone, I can no longer trust the data, and you can no longer trust the data to make accurate forecasts. So if I make a wrong prediction, it's because maybe, for example, I'll think a market crash is going to happen because inflation is going to surge higher. Because for all I know, the government could come out and just go, you know what, let's say CPI this month was 0.1%, and now we need to drop interest rates to negative to bring inflation back up to our goal of 2%, when really, real inflation is 10%. Because don't put it past them how far they're willing to go to keep the markets propped up and to keep the bubble going. But everyone, what do you think about all this? Let me know down below. Now, for my loyal viewers and subscribers still watching, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next video.